You've been searching for the best way to generate passive income in your life and heard that real estate is a great way to do it. But you're tired of all the so-called gurus who are all talk and no substance. Get ready to celebrate because Kevin Bupp has spent 14 years successfully making it happen. This is the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Now, here's Kevin Bupp.
Hey guys, Kevin Bupp here, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income-producing real estate investments. Now, our guest for this week's show is real estate and multifamily expert James Kandsamy. Now, James brings years of experience in real estate with more than 5 years in multifamily acquisitions and asset management. His strength and expertise lies in not only finding value in multifamily properties, but also realizing that value. As of this recording, James has a portfolio of approximately 1,400 doors in the San Antonio and Austin, Texas markets. One of the unique aspects of James's business, which is one of the key topics that we're going to be focusing on today, is that James's property management is vertically integrated into his company. Now, for those that are new to the multifamily game, it is much more typical to outsource the property management to a third-party operator. But James feels his way is the better way, and during our time together, we'll go into great detail to quantify what that means. Now, here are a few of the items that you're going to learn on our call with James today. You're going to learn the reason why after getting his start in the single-family investment game, James quickly decided to transition into bigger multifamily deals. We're going to discuss the decision behind James's retaining the property management in-house versus outsourcing to a third-party management company, which is, again, as I mentioned, very commonplace in the multifamily industry. We're going to discuss the top 2 sources from which James receives new prospect leads for each of his communities. We're going to learn how James has used out-of-the-box marketing efforts such as direct mail and direct texting to secure both smaller and medium-sized apartment communities, even though that most experts will tell you that it's a waste of time to do. In fact, James goes on to suggest that if you're not doing this, then you're leaving money on the table. James and I will also discuss his evaluation method and how he mitigates risk when acquiring a new community. We're going to discuss the importance of running your business via data-driven metrics and how James has simplified this process to ensure he always has his finger on the pulse of exactly how each of his properties are performing, and much, much more. And guys, so with that, I'm excited to get on to the show with James, but before we do, I have a few quick housekeeping items I'd like to cover. Like I do each and every week, I like to run through very quickly one of my personal best and professional best of the prior week. Now, I'll start with the personal best this week. For those that don't know, one of my big passions in life is cycling. So road cycling, a road bike. And each and every year for the past going on 10 years now, I put together a 3-day, 280-mile bike ride. It normally happens sometime late October, early November. This starts in Fort Myers Beach, Florida, and goes all the way down to Key West, where we end at the southernmost point. Again, 3 days, 280 miles. So it's a pretty intense ride. And this ride benefits both my good friend, Rod Cleef's, his foundation, which is the Tiny Hands Foundation, as well as another charity here locally called Starting Right Now. Now, I started my training a few weeks back, and it's going well. So that's kind of a personal best for me. I've been traveling a ton over the past couple of months, and it's somewhat interrupted my normal riding schedule, which is kind of tough for me to readjust. And so I've really honed in on my training. This ride's only a couple months away, and so things are going really well. I feel really good, feel really healthy, and looking forward to that event. This year, we're shooting to donate $50,000 to between the 2 different charities, and I'm excited to say that we're actually on track. So I think last year we ended up donating about $40,000, and so we're looking to up the ante a little bit this year. If you guys want to learn more about the event itself, or you have an interest in maybe just supporting these 2 great causes that are really near and dear to my heart, then you can go to the website for the ride, which is 72hourstokeywest.com. That's 72, like the number 72, 72hourstokeywest.com. And as far as a professional best, guys, I recently got invited to speak at my good friend Todd Dexheimer's real estate conference. It's up in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. It's on September 20th and the 21st. And I'll tell you that the lineup of the speakers is absolutely awesome, which I'd say practically guarantees that the event will be an amazing time. Lots of great information is going to be shared. And so if you have an interest in learning about this and come to see both me speak as well as and just an amazing lineup of other speakers, you can go to their website. It's nreconference.com. Again, nreconference.com. You can learn more there. And also, if you have an interest in signing up, which it's well worth your money, it's a very inexpensive event. I think tickets start at $299. But if you use the promo code BUP, which is my last name, BUPP, again, use the promo code BUP and you'll save $100 off of a ticket. And just a little special treat that I want to offer out to those that end up attending, that use the promo code BUP to attend. I'm going to be hosting an invite-only get-together one of the nights during the event, which you'll be able to attend, where we'll get together and basically a small intimate group setting and have a mastermind session. So again, that's only for those folks that actually use the BUP promo code to attend. So if you're in and around the Minneapolis area, or it's easy to fly into. So if you're, any major market throughout the US or MSA, you can easily find a direct flight to get to Minneapolis, and hopefully I'll get to meet you there. Again, it's just in the coming weeks. It's September 20th and 21st. And again, if you want to learn more, go to the website, nreconference.com. And lastly, guys, if you love what we're doing here, please take a moment to go subscribe to the show and also leave a rating review in iTunes. And like I do every week, I love to give a shout out to one of the folks who's taken the time to go to iTunes and leave the review. So this one is from Reverend J. Brown. And he says, I'm so thankful that I stumbled upon Kevin's podcast. I'm now a regular listener and gain so much each week from his interviews. More so, I enjoy the fact that Kevin keeps the show family friendly and even talks about his values and philanthropy in the community. Not only is he a great real estate mentor, but it's also apparent he's a family man that cares about helping others. I wish we had more Kevin Bups in the world. Well, that's an awesome one. I actually did not even read that prior to reading it right now here on the show. So that's awesome. I love every bit of that. So thank you so much for taking the time to leave a review. And folks, again, these reviews aren't just for me. These are really for us to grow the show, help reach more people, and attract awesome guests to the show. So if you love what we're doing here, again, please take the time to go over and leave that on iTunes. I just want to remind you the free 30-minute phone call that I offer each and every Friday. You can sign up for that by going to kevinbupp.com. That's my website, kevinbupp.com. This is where you and I can discuss anything and everything regarding real estate investing, okay? It doesn't matter what your questions are, as long as they're related to real estate investing. You have me. There's no sales pitch. I won't try to push you into a coaching program or anything like that. Again, go to my website to sign up for that call. And now, without further ado, I'd like to get on to the part of the show that you guys have been waiting for, which is our interview with James Kandsamy. So here we go. Alrighty, guys, it is my honor to introduce my guest for today's show, founder of Achieve Investment Group and my good friend, James Kandsamy. James, how you doing today, my friend?
Hey, very good, Kevin. Happy to be on this show. I mean, this is one of the shows that I started listening about commercial real estate. I started with single family and moving to commercial, and it's one of the inspirational show, and I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny. I've already kind of shared this story with James. We're in a mastermind together, and we saw each other not too long ago. And I've got a really good memory in some aspects and some very weird aspects. And I still do them today. I stopped for a while, but I used to do free 30-minute calls every Friday where listeners of the podcast would reach out, and I do them now. So if you want to schedule, go to my website. But I literally remembered the day that James and I had a phone call, and I don't know why I remembered exactly where I was at that point in time, because most of the other calls I probably wouldn't remember if you asked me where I was, what day of the week it was, or what I was doing at that given moment. I wouldn't know. But for whatever reason, James, I remember exactly what I was doing the day we talked on the phone. I remember our conversation in detail. And I think I was making lunch. I had my Bluetooth on. I was making lunch at home, and I was working the microwave as we were talking on the phone. I was very focused on our conversation, but for whatever reason, I remember making lunch while we were having our conversation. I remember you telling me part of that conversation was about a deal you had either just tied up or you had just closed. I can't recall.
I think it was tied up at that time. Yeah.
Okay. But it was off a direct mail piece. And that's correct, something that we preach a lot of and we talk a lot about. And it wasn't a small multifamily. It was a fairly large multifamily. I believe, was it San Antonio, Texas?
It was San Antonio, Texas. It was 174 units.
Yeah, that's awesome.
On a mail piece that cost $1 to send.
That's wonderful. I love it. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that and how you find deals and things like that here in a few minutes. But for those folks that aren't familiar with you, James, that don't know who you are, what you're all about, maybe take a few minutes and tell us about your background and ultimately how you got into real estate.
Sure. So my company is Achieve Investment Group. We primarily focus on Class B and C multifamily acquisitions or apartment acquisition. we're right now focusing a lot on Central Texas, which is Austin, San Antonio corridor. And we own like almost 1,300 units now, which is almost over $100 over $1 million in assets. And this is what we own directly with our passive investors, right? I mean, we have a lot of other passive investment, which I'm not counting. And I want to be clear about that. And, I used to be an electrical engineer with an MBA, but now doing real estate.
Okay, very, very cool. So just to clarify, these 1,300 units, or approximately 1,300 units, you own. It's your own money. I mean, you've got other passive investments.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's not my. I mean, I am the primary GP. Okay. I would say, right? I mean, of course, I have my passive investors too. Yeah.
But these are active deals. And it's something we're going to chat about today, something that James does a little differently, which has been a big portion of a lot of our recent conversations, is he's completely vertically integrated. One of the common themes that you'll find of folks that are in the multifamily space, no matter what size they are, is that most of them utilize third-party management services. However, James has vertically integrated that part of his business. And so we're definitely going to speak to that, because James, I'd have to say that you're probably an anomaly based on, the size of your holdings today to what most others are doing. And so I'm excited to chat with you about that. Again, we've had multiple conversations about it. However, I think it'd be very helpful for the folks to better understand the reasons behind it, the pros and the cons associated with it and such. And so, so you got started in single family. Let's talk about your foundation. You got started in single family. Yeah. How long were you investing in single family before you decided to make a transition? And what really was the catalyst of that transition?
I think we started with single family because we didn't have much equity when we started in real estate. We only started with $50,000, right? So I started buying houses in San Antonio. We went up to like 13 single family in 2013 to 2015, build up almost 400,000 of equity and started refinancing out. In fact, we did double refi of our single family homes because we use direct mail piece to buy them directly from sellers. So we get really, really good deals. And then we do the BRRRR method, right? Buy, rehab, refinance, rent. So we built up like 400,000. But the thing is, the problem with single families and after 10, 13 becomes so much of work, right? So, and you are limited, right? Now you have to go portfolio loan. So we went to portfolio loan. But the problem is, portfolio loan is not a long-term loan, right? And it comes with its own issues. And it's just so much of work. I mean, managing property taxes. Property taxes was fine. I think insurance, managing tenants is just a lot of work for single family. Even though the cash on cash can be higher. But I realized there's a lot of magic in multifamily or commercial real estate because of the fast appreciation. So I said, okay, I'm moving to commercial real estate.
Okay, fantastic. And so what was the first foray? I mean, what was that first property, the size of it, the multifamily property? What was the size of it? Where was it located? And do you still own it today?
It's 45 units in San Antonio, which we found also through a direct mail and a cold texting. And we own it today, but actually for sale right now. So we probably will be done with the sale in the next few months. But yeah, we started with 45 units and we went to 174 units, which was a second deal, which we found with the same method. And then after that, the rest of it, we started using brokers and we get through off-market directly from sellers too.
Yeah. Do you think it's still possible to find good opportunities in the multifamily space from direct mail? So direct to owner marketing efforts?
I think absolutely yes. That's what brokers do.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. No, I'm glad you answered that way because you're absolutely right. I mean, how does one think that a broker actually initiates a relationship? It doesn't mean they might not send a mailer. It could be a phone call. It could be a networking event, what have you. But they initiate contact with that owner, get to know them a little bit. And you can do that. You can initiate that yourself with a direct mail piece or a cold call or a cold text. There's many different ways that you can do it. But you're essentially stepping into the shoes of a broker. And it takes a little bit more effort to scale that approach than it might just going directly to brokers. But I think one of the things that you benefit from in a lot of instances is that, you kind of eliminate or I guess shield yourself from a lot of the potential competition if you are the only one actually dealing with that seller, which I guess in today's world might not always be the case, but it's kind of what we built our business on. It's all the different mobile home parks that we purchased over the years. Majority of those came from direct mail or cold calling, one of the two. And we very rarely ever had competition, which is a good thing, where you're not getting into a bidding war with other buyers. Because I always like to say there's always someone else willing to pay more than you for a property. And I don't like to get in that type of situation. I get uncomfortable.
Yeah, bidding war is just so much of pressure because you're bidding against yourself and you're going.
That's it.
And when at this stage of cycle where everybody has a FOMO, fear of missing out, every newbie or everybody want to do a deal and they overpromise, they underwrite differently to just get that higher price, right? So, but let me qualify a bit more with the direct mail piece on multifamily, right? I mean, a lot of multifamily owners become more sophisticated when they have a lot more than 200 units, right? So I would say direct mail piece is very good way to get started in this market cycle for newbies who are looking for like less than like 100 units or 100 something units or less than that, but which is the perfect spot for any newbies to get started. I'll find it very, very difficult to understand if a broker is giving a deal in this market cycle to a newbie, right? Either the deal has been seen by many, many experienced people and it's not a good deal at all, and they know this newbie, I can take a chance with this guy, right? I mean, we are talking about like a couple of hundred of thousands of commission on brokers, and they want to be making sure that they save their face to the seller, because seller might be bringing more deals. At the same time, they want to make sure that whoever they give the deal to is a real closer, right? So if a newbie is getting deals from brokers, it's very, very rare. It's a good deal, right? I mean, I would say it's a marginal deal probably, or maybe the underwriting is too aggressive from the newbie, or because everybody want to get started, right? So, but I think the best method right now at this market cycle to get started, even in multifamily or any other commercial, I would say, right? It's basically to go direct to the seller and direct mail or cold texting or cold calling and establishing that. It's a slow process, but I think that the return of investment of time is a lot more higher value when you go direct to sellers, because now, even though you spend a lot of time, but you get that one deal that makes sense, right? Compared to you spend a lot of time talking to 100 brokers and you get marginal deal, right? So I think the return of time and return of investment is much higher when you go direct to seller, especially on a newbie, and if you go into less than 200 units in multifamily.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And I want to add an additional little spin to that. And I agree with everything that you just shared there, James. I will say that there's always going to be property owners that no matter how many times you mail them, no matter how many times you call them or text them, they're just not going to respond to you. There's certain property owners that will only want to deal with a broker. They want that intermediary there. They want that individual that is to them a professional that's going to kind of manage that transaction for them. So just know that there's folks out there that no matter what you say to them, no matter what you offer, no matter what your pitch is, no matter how nice you are or how endearing you are, they're not going to respond to you. They're not going to give you the time of day. However, there's plenty others that are completely open with saving, $500,000 of commissions, and they feel sophisticated enough themselves to have the conversation without having a broker involved. And those are the folks that you're really going after. And so I wanted to add that additional layer there.
I've also realized that sometimes commission is one thing. Absolutely, commission is one thing. The other thing is it's a mindset thing, right? You do not know why some things happen to you, right? Like when I bought my first deal on 45 units, I mean, the guy who I texted it is actually an agent for the owner, right? And the owner is a land developer. They are big brokers, land developers. But, a lot of people do this in multifamily or any other asset class. They say, oh, multifamily is cool. Let's go and buy one, right? And later they realize, oh, I made a mistake, right? I cannot deal with this property management company. And now they are frustrated and, the occupancy is going down. And suddenly there's one letter coming or one text coming in saying that I want to buy. And he might think that I am a newbie and I'm going to be overpaying. So in fact, if I were looking at my numbers that I bought these the first two deals directly from the seller, I bought it at market cap rate. Market cap rate at San Antonio was 6.5 at that time. And I did buy it at 6.5 and they were happy. They sold it at market cap rate. They know how commercial work. They're just land developers. They just don't have the time to go and list it to the broker, and they like you and they're getting market rate and they're happy, right? They do off-market transaction. But for me, that market rate, what I bought, has a lot of upside because it's a value add, right? So from 6.5, I brought it to almost 9% cap rate. I saw the potential there and I said, okay, I'm buying it market cap rate. It's okay. I can push up the rent once I fix it up. But the thing is, if I go to a broker, that 6.5 cap rate is going to be sold at, 6% cap rate or 5, because they say, oh, it's value add. No, why not you buy it? If
you're going to make you pay for the value add.
Yeah, they want to pay. Right now, they want you to pay for the value add, right? So
yeah.
That's great.
All that hard work you're about to put in, you got to pay for it ahead of time.
Correct.
Yeah. So let's talk about cap rates, and let's talk about, the heightened competition in the multifamily space. I mean, just real estate in general, but we're talking about multifamily today because that's the asset class you focus in. I mean, would you say that today, not today, like as we record this, but just generally speaking, this point in time in the cycle, is it a good point for someone to get in? Someone new that's looking to dive into multifamily. Is there opportunity still that can be uncovered? Are there needles in the haystack that can be had with all the other fierce competition that's out there?
I absolutely think there is deals out there. It's just at this market cycle, you have to be very careful on what you're buying, right? So on a downturn, on a rising market, you want to buy a deal where it's marginal because the market is behind you and it's going to push you through the appreciation. But on an upturn and going down, which is what's happening right now, or maybe it's going to plateau, right? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think it's going to go down very badly in multifamily, but it's going to plateau. I think you want to buy a deal which is really, really solid, right? Rather than marginal, right? So you might be very slow in your acquisition, but due to the lending scenario now, right, it's very good to get capital from investors, very good to get loans. It's still the best time to buy it. So there are absolutely deals out there, but it's very, very hard to find. And you have to use some kind of value proposition to buy this kind of deal. What is so special to you that you are able to buy that someone else is not able to buy? Either your equity is cheap, right? Let's say your investor base only expect 1% to 2%. Like a lot of institutional guys, they are still buying because their money need to be parked somewhere, right? Or you have certain advantage, like if you have your own vertically integrated company where you can control a lot of flow, you can get a much better loan value, right? Or you can manage it much more effectively, right? Or you don't take a lot of fees, right? So you can still do deals. I think real estate deals are always existing. It's just whether you're going on an acceleration mode or you're going on a de-acceleration mode.
Got it.
Right now I'm on a de-acceleration mode, but I'm still buying.
Yeah. Sure. No, absolutely. We're the same way. And I want to talk about we spoke a little bit too in the beginning that you guys are vertically integrated with your property management and such. And so just generally speaking, if you kind of combine those two, you got the property management, you got the acquisition side. What does the day in the life of James look like? Like give us that 10,000 foot view of what that looks like day to day running your business. And maybe you can speak a little bit to your team as well. What does that team look like, that keeps the wheels moving and rolling forward?
Sure. So I'm very lucky because my wife who takes care of the construction and the property management, right? So she takes care of that and I take care of the acquisition and investor relationship and financing. So a lot of her days takes a lot of time in terms of managing, problems, right? I mean, property management is a people management problem business, right? So, but the good thing is right now we have regionals and we have construction managers who are managing a lot of day-to-day activities, and they are on site, they are moving around in the city, right? So we are trying to coach them to become a much better leader, right? So that's what we are doing nowadays. And for me, it's all about underwriting and whenever I see deals and looking for deals, talking to investors, building that part of the cycle, right? So my day, a lot of time spent with building relationship, building investor base, and finding deals, underwriting deals. Whereas my wife's time is basically dealing with all the property management, which is a lot of work, right? And it is what it is. We want to make sure that we take care of our property and our investment as our baby because we are the only one who can take care of it as a baby, right? If you give it to third parties, it is a third party management all the time.
So what does that, so you've got your wife, she's kind of head of the property management and construction side. And you had mentioned you've got regionals, and I'm assuming most of your communities have an on-site property manager of some sort. Correct. Can you give us the different layers of what that looks like? Who is in the team? Because I'm trying to get to, and the answer I'm trying to arrive at is, how many folks does it really take to self-manage the number of units that you currently have, which you said is right around 1,300 apartment units.
1,300, yeah. In apartments,
that's a lot of maintenance calls. That's a lot of maintenance calls. That's a lot of units, steadily turning over, right? I mean, this is assuming that, on average, you're turning, 30 to maybe 40%, maybe more of that on an annual basis. I don't know what the numbers are nowadays. I'm just throwing that out there. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But there's a lot of work to be had when you've got 1,300 units under management. And so just to better understand what that team looks like to get the job done, would you mind sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of the questions that I was trying to solve as we grow from 300 units to 700, 800 and 1,000 over, right? So after we reached like almost 700 units or 800 units, we said, okay, we need to get a regional because there's just so much of work handling directly with the property management. So at property level, we have maintenance lead, we have porter, we have assistant maintenance, and we have property managers, right? So they all report to the regionals. The regionals report to us, right? Report to my wife, and I takes care of the asset management side, right?
Okay. Two regionals or one?
One regional right now, right?
Okay.
So I think 13, regional, the way you count in apartments is basically they need to have less than like 10 properties. It can be managed by one regional because, it's a slightly higher level, and property managers are the one that manages on the day-to-day operations, right? So a lot of systems and process need to be put in by regional, right? So, but we do manage the entire operation using tools, right? So I started recently tracking all my dashboard and indicators. I want to have a summary, right? Because I want to see I used to look at P&Ls every day. Hey, what's happening, which is, it's a lot of work, right? And, but I started creating charts and tools. Like I have someone who creating my delinquency, right? My make ready, who's the fastest rate, who's slacking off and make ready, who's having idling units, right? So in your case, it'll be idling mobile home units, right? So started tracking that. And from there, I can see which property is really slacking off. So what I did is I put all this property management data on a visual basis so that I can track each one of parameters so that I can make decisions on the most important stuff. It's 80-20 Pareto rule, right? We don't have to go to every property and tell them we better do good in delinquency. We see one property which is doing really, really bad and go and improve them, right? So now I can tell our regional, hey, go and work on these two property, which this two is having problem. And we do that on a weekly basis, right? On a monthly basis. So
did you build that KPI dashboard?
No, it's just an Excel sheet. It's just an Excel sheet. We have a VA who tracks it from property management and
got it. So you got the VA pulls it out of your rental management software, property management software, and inputs it for you so that you can review. Got it.
Yeah, because the property management software is very, very data, right? I mean, we want to see trends. We want to see trend lines. So is it going up or going down or what's happening, right? Is my delinquency coming down on a daily basis? I want to see that. If they're not coming down, then I know the property manager is not really pushing for delinquency, right? So then I can go and say, hey, out of my 8 properties, I can tell property number A is a problem, right? Let's go and focus on that. The rest of the 7 properties are doing fine. I'm not going to disturb them, right? So it's basically managing based on Pareto principle, which I think is important because as you grow your portfolio, you need to do that, right? So you need visualization, visual indicators, and that's what we have created right now.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I know that your wife's head of the property management side, but I'm wondering if you know the answer to the question of what is the number one best source of new leads from a marketing perspective for your business, meaning like filling vacant units. There's in the apartment space, there's a ton of different ones out there. But what do you think is like the leader today as far as generating new prospect leads?
That's a very good question. I mean, when I came to this industry, I was asking on my second property, I was asking my experienced property manager, hey, how do you track all these leads? How do you know where are they calling from? How are you following up with them? And nobody knows the answer. So
really,
it doesn't make sense. They say, yeah, everybody call. I say, what do you mean call? Call from where? Call from Zillow, call from apartments.com, call from Google, or just call directly, call from resident referral. So you have to know, because marketing cost is very expensive if you look at it, right? And you want to make sure it's always 80-20 Pareto, right? So you want to make sure you put your most money on the most effective marketing cost, right? So usually whenever I buy any deals, I usually take all the advertisement sources and pay them like 3 or 4 months. Even though it's very expensive, I pay them to make sure which marketing source is the most effective, right? But in general, across all my properties in multifamily in San Antonio, we have seen that Google is the best. So make sure you have good reviews in Google. I think almost 80% of my leads come from Google. We are not doing any paid advertisement, just Google. People look for your property. They know your property. They found somewhere. They Google it. They see good reviews and they call you from there. Okay. So second would be apartments.com in the apartment industry. And these two makes up almost 90 to 95% of the entire lead chain.
Wow.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So what's the point of me paying Zillow? What's the point of paying me Zumper? Right. But I mean, it could change at different location, but it's just, I'm saying that this is data, right? I'm talking all on data, right? And
Yep.
sometimes you get a lot of leads. Like, for example, Zillow, you get tons and tons of leads, but there's no pure leases coming in for the demographic apartment renters that we are seeing, right? I'm not sure why. Maybe Zillow is people are looking for houses to rent and looking at houses to buy. And they just, sometimes you have software is an easy way to just click all and then send, right? But they not really want to be an apartment renter. Maybe that's the case. I'm not sure. But from my data, apartments.com and Google, almost 90 to 95% of leases, pure actual leases, comes from these two sources. And Google is the 80% there.
That's good to know.
Yeah. I look at data because I don't want to spend my budget on.
Yeah, the leader for us more recently, we used to rely a lot on Craigslist, and obviously we can't necessarily utilize like apartments.com and things like that. They're not really looking for our product on apartments.com. What's really come to trump Craigslist over the last probably last year is a Facebook Marketplace. It's huge. I mean, like the actual responses and the leads that we get for the same amount of effort on Facebook Marketplace is like tenfold to that of Craigslist now. It's crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of my leasing agent did try that, like a marketplace, like for apartment or people to look to rent apartment, and she had really good success as well. Even though we are not able to track that leads. I mean, Facebook is a bit tricky because how do you track the leads to come to this CRM that we use, right? So we want that automatic tracking. Otherwise, we wouldn't know. So it might be very effective, but I just don't have that data.
Yeah, I know we're using, I can't answer that fully, but as we build out our property management side, we're using, I think you mentioned Zumper. I think Zumper is one of those ways through our rent manager software that we'll be able to track them. Again, I'm not one involved in setting up that integration, so I might be speaking out of line here. So I'm just going to stop there, so I don't act as though I know something that I truly don't.
Yeah. And coming back to the leads, right? So some of the leads, I mean, as I said, you have to try different sources to see what is the most effective. Some part of San Antonio, we do see Craigslist is much, much better than apartments.com. I mean, Google is the top across all location, but apartments.com can be, second priority on some locations. So as I said, you have to try all lead sources, and after 3 to 6 months, you funnel it to one or two, which makes the most, right? And this is another reason why we have our own property management company, because if I give it to third-party property management company, they will advertise in 10 different places, and they play all kind of advertisement, right? Diamond package, platinum package, because they want to, it's all about based on income.
Well, it's easy for them. It's easy for them to do it. They just charge your credit card for it. That's all.
Correct. But the owners pay for it, right? So, but in reality, a lot of it's ineffective.
Got it. I'd love to chat with you about a case study, but not a case study of a deal you've done, right? I mean, you've got a lot of success stories. What I'd love to chat with you about is kind of take the reverse approach and maybe have you share with us a case study of a deal that didn't happen, maybe one that you tied up, and then maybe the various reasons as to why you decided to kill it and move on to the next. Because you mentioned, not knowing what to look for. Like a lot of new folks, they don't know what's what, right? And the marketing package look all nice and pretty, and the pro formas look great. But really, when you start diving into any one individual deal, there's typically hidden skeletons and things that you got to kind of extract that you might not know from the front side looking in. And so, again, if you wouldn't mind sharing, maybe something that comes to mind, a deal could be very recent, it could be years ago, but just one that it looked good on the outside, you got it tied up. You started putting some effort into it, and then things came about. There were skeletons that came out of the closet that that couldn't be fixed or couldn't be resolved, and you decided to opt out of the deal.
Absolutely, I have a few because I usually look at deals that I passed on, see how well they're doing.
Okay,
so it's basically learning whether I did the correct decision or not, right. So there was one deal that it was in my marketplace where it was 80s vintage, which is Class B. It works really well on the numbers, right, on the underwriting, and I followed up directly with the seller, few years back, and he was pretty good. And end of the day, he went and listed it, and he was asking. I mean, this is a professional seller, right? This is a real professional apartment owner, but so he wanted high price on it, but I think. And I'm one of the guy who's willing to pay that price, right? Because I know there's a lot of upside if I buy it at that price. I think it was 60s a door, 1980s, which I think a lot of deals in San Antonio was priced at like 70 a door. So, and he likes me, calls me, hey, James, this is a deal for you. And even though he went to brokers come to me too, because he already said, hey, go and work with James. So, but I mean, usually the professional sellers, what they do is they're not going to give it to you. They're gonna go to many people and try to get each people to beat each other, right? So this is professional seller. I'm okay with that as long as the price works, the numbers works, and the deal works, and I know there's a lot of upside on it, right? So, but through my research, I also found that so this is what I do, right? Whatever deal I want to buy, I go as a tenant, right? So, and I sit down on the office and say, hey, what are the issues here, right? And suddenly the maintenance guy was saying, hey, yeah, there's some issues here on the roof, on the foundation. Okay. So, but I went and looked at let's just Google this particular property, and 10, 20, not maybe like 10 years ago, before this seller bought it, there were some foundation issues. The entire, fireplace was collapsing from outside. You can see.
Wow.
So that whole area had some issues. So I asked the seller, hey,
was that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I just want to clarify, did you find that via county records, like permits being pulled, or was this like just news? It made some headlines.
It made some headlines. It's just news.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Google, right. So
that's normally worse though.
It does. So I asked the seller, and he said, yeah, I went in, I fixed the problem. I spent this much of money, and it's no more there, but there's some work to be done. So that when you say there's some work to be done, I'm surprised, because I don't mind buying foundation problem. I mean, that's how I got, single family homes, buying foundation issues and fixing it up. But I know it doesn't usually come back. But in this deal, I was suspecting there's something coming back. And so there was some feeling, even though the price was right, I don't like foundation issues coming back, right? So, he came back to me, he said, just give me an offer, I'll buy it. But he was really like beating me against another guy, and the price went really up. And I didn't like the fact that he was, he did this is what you call an off-market premium bidding process, right? Where they do you call for offers off-market, and then you do a best and final. And I did push up my price, and then you say best and final, and I did push up a bit more price. And after that, when he said, okay, James, you're selected, but I want another 200,000 more. So when he said that, I was really, really upset. I said, I'm not going to work with you anymore, because best and final means should be the best and final, right? Now you're squeezing me until the end. And I, just because of that fact, because he was not a gentleman seller.
Sure.
And all this foundation issue, I said, okay, I'm not going to do this deal at all, right? So I gave up on the deal. The deal was on the market for 1 year, because he was asking really, really high price. And every time people go in, they found like 700,000 of foundation issues. There was one guy who put it under contract, and they said there's 700,000. But the seller didn't want to sell it, because he said, I'm not going to pay for that, right? So, and I heard all that news. And finally, someone bought it like maybe 5 months ago, right? So it was very interesting. 5 months ago, and someone bought it, and I was okay. So somebody bought it from California. Somebody overpaid for it. They don't care about it. They just buy it, right? So I thought that's good. But later I found out there was a fire happened in one of the building, and I had a fire in my property too. And I went to a city meeting, and I was talking to this architect who's working on my building fire, and he was telling about that property. And I said, oh, that property, I'm supposed to buy that property. Is there still have foundation issues? You know what he said? He said, James, thank God you didn't buy it. That whole place has a lot of foundation problems.
Yeah.
So thank God. So I was thinking, oh my God. So I made a really good call on just based on gut feeling, right? So
yeah. Gut's important, man. I mean, sometimes there's not pure data behind it, and it's got to be your gut. And at the end of the day, life is really too short to actually work with and do business with someone that you just truly don't like and don't trust. And it sounds like this guy was giving the runaround and just not being authentic, and it's like, I don't enjoy dealing with greedy individuals, or, for all there really wasn't anyone else that were, that were competing, right? You just don't know, right? He's just trying to squeeze you, and it's just not cool. That's not the way to conduct business. There's many other ways to go about it, all above board. So
yeah, I mean, even the brokers who was like doing this off-market thing, they were really upset as well, because they wanted to really sell, and they didn't expect the seller to like do a best and final, and then another best and final, right? Which means like he's really, really squeezing you out, and they got out of the deal as well. So they were really upset. But at least I made that call, because the seller was not really a gentleman seller. At the same time, I had this feeling this foundation issues was a big problem, because it shouldn't be reoccurring, right? So, But I was happy to find out that, the true foundation issues there and it's hard to fix, right? And because you can buy as cheap as you want.
Related or
I do not know what's the problem, but
Are sinkholes common in Texas?
No,
not
really.
No,
not really.
I thought you had a sandy soil. Maybe not.
No, I don't think so. I've heard of any sinkhole issue, but that I don't know. That particular property have some kind of foundation problem that reoccurs, and I do not want to have that while running my operations.
Yeah. Interesting. I'd love to switch gears a little bit. I want to chat about the value add side of the business, and
sure.
I'd love to hear from you, from your perspective, as to what are some of the, I guess, the most, as far as bang for your buck, value add improvements that you can make outside of like general aesthetics, like interiors and, upgrading kitchens and upgrading bathrooms, more so of like adding amenities. That's what I wanted to chat about. Amenities like, dog parks, there's, playgrounds, maybe pools, a barbecue area. What are some of the biggest bang for your buck amenities that you've seen or that you've added to your communities over the years?
So this is the same question I asked in my podcast. What's the value add, right? So in terms of amenities, even without amenities, I think the most important value add is just good management. People love good management. People don't mind paying $50 to $100 more just for good management. People just want to be taken care of, right? Mm-hmm. So, but apart from that, amenities wise, I think the best bang for the buck is taking over the laundry from companies who are, splitting commission with you, and you buying your own laundry and getting all that money to you makes the most money for us. Yeah, because we
even though at that point in time you got to deal with the maintenance of the machines. But I guess if your property is large enough, you've got a maintenance individual on site, then you've got someone kind of built in to kind of deal with the minor breakdowns. And if you've got a bunch of machines, if one breaks down, it's not going to really end your operation until it's fixed. So
yeah, but we buy all brand new machines, and we get the technicians which sells the machines to service it for next 2 years. So just pure data, right? So we make like almost $30,000 on one property, but divide by cap rate, that's
huge.
That we are gaining like 500 to 600,000 in value, right? And
mm-hmm.
probably the amount that we paid for that machine is probably like 39,000, right? So ROI wise is much more better. And you buy like 8 machines, probably one goes down, and it's a new machine. Usually it should not be going down. So the technicians from that machines that we bought, they're going to come and fix it immediately.
Yeah, got it.
We're good with that. So I think that's the best valuable value add, I would say.
Okay, fantastic. How about any resources that you use on a regular basis when you're looking at new opportunities? Determine things such as like area demographics, rent comps, rent per square foot, market vacancy. And I know that you probably know San Antonio like the back of your hand, but let's if you were going into a new market that you weren't as familiar with, what are some of those resources that you have found to be invaluable as far as giving you that critical data?
Yeah, I think for crime, I like to look at Trulia. Trulia gives the best data for crime. It's free. I like to use a lot of Yardi metrics, which is a paid tool. And I'm recently started learning what's called ARGIS, ARGIS.
Argus, yeah.
Which is much, much more powerful. And I'm really learning a lot. And it gives me a lot of data on areas that I do not know, such as median household income or population growth or income growth that's being projected, right? Sub-market is so important in current days because you can't treat all deals as the same, and most of the deals are bad deals anyway, right? So if you can look at certain sub-market and identify certain growth factor that the brokers are not seeing, so you're basically going more advanced level than brokers and analyzing the deal in a different way, right? Mm-hmm. So you can find deals, and I think tools like median household income in Yardi, Trulia, and ARGIS is really, really powerful.
Okay, fantastic. And what are you doing nowadays as far as underwriting deals to plan for a potential recession or mitigate your risk associated with the recession? Do you run multiple different underwriting models to say maybe there's a few flat years of rent growth, or maybe occupancy or vacancy increases a point or two over a period of time? What are some of those sensitivity analysis that you run when you're underwriting a new opportunity today?
I think most sensitivity analysis doesn't work because there's too much variable. I don't know how people are showing sensitivity analysis of one variable against another variable, because there's you have like 10 different other variables that you're assuming, right?
Yeah,
like
true.
example, I've seen a return versus cap rate, right? And then they say you're only looking at two, but you also assume 3% rent growth, 2% rent growth, expense growth. So you're assuming, what else you're assuming? You're assuming the rental itself is going to grow on your value add. So there's too many variables that you're assuming, which makes one-to-one sensitivity analysis invalid, right? You can do it. It's nice to look on paper, but it's really going to be hard, right? So, but the way I look at my deals, I look for like today's upside, right? What is today's upside? And then what is it for the next 1 year without increasing anything on the property itself? What is the built-in upside, right? So I'm not looking at market appreciation. I'm looking for built-in upside. So basically, if I go today, if this is a seller managing this property, this is me managing the property, managing plus capital injection, where could I take this property potential to without rent increase at all, right? Assuming the expense is the same, right? So I look for built-in upside on today's value, and I don't really increase any rent for next 1 to 2 years. Maybe on the third year, I start putting 3% rent growth. But for the first 2 years, if the first 2 years numbers work, I know this is a deal that is mismanaged or has a built-in upside.
Yeah. Very interesting. How about, do you ever look back at historical trends of how the properties that you're looking to buy or the properties that you currently own, how they performed during the worst of times, 2007, 8, 9, 10 era?
No, I do not know. I mean, I think a lot of things have changed since that era because, there's a lot of black swan effect of millennials become renters, right? I mean, there's a lot more renters now. So that's a big black swan effect that it didn't exist at that time. So it's a bit hard to compare data. But I do look at data on the city level basis, right? So which city has endured recession the best? Right. And if I look at both this San Antonio and Austin, they are the top market among all the other markets in terms of drop. Because if you look at data, the US unemployment job growth dropped like almost 6% during 2008 to 2010, right? But whereas San Antonio dropped to 1.8 and Austin dropped to 2%, right? So that shows the ratio of how much tolerance is that city. And if I look at like cities like Orlando and Dallas, even Dallas and Houston, right? These are hot market right now. Orlando, Phoenix, everything is hot right now. But if you go back to 2008 to 2010, when the whole economy drops, they slide together with the economy, right? So if the US dropped by 6%, most of this market either drop 6% or 5%. So that's the data. I mean, it's not to say I know this data before I buy my deals. I bought my deals in this area because it's in my backyard, but when I look at that data from US Census, it was very fulfilling for me because I know for some reason San Antonio and Austin did pretty well in the last recession. I'm not saying they're going to do very well in the next recession, but there's something in terms of diversity of economic activity that has caused them to be more resilient. So
right.
That's the only data I can go by right now.
No. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Well, James, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I can't believe it took this long actually to get you on the show. I don't know what happened, why we didn't do it sooner. But before we roll this up and say goodbye, I'd like to enter in what I like to call the golden nugget segment. And what I'd like to ask of you is if you had just one last golden nugget of advice or wisdom that you could leave with our listeners here today that may inspire and motivate them as they progress in their own real estate journey, what would that one last golden nugget be?
If you think there's deal out there, you are right. And if you think there's no deal out there, you're absolutely right too.
I love it. I love it. So basically, get off your butt and go take some action.
Yeah, there's too many people giving
translation.
reasons. Yeah, there's too many people giving excuses for not doing deals. I mean, there's too many people sitting on the sidelines waiting for the market to crash. And they do not know if a market crash, you can't go and buy. Then it's not a real definition of a downturn, right?
Right.
You can't say in a downturn, I'm going to go and buy all these deals. I'm waiting for the market to crash. There's no such thing, right? Then it's not a downturn, right? So I think deals are always there. It's just you have to have some unique value proposition. Either go direct to seller, or you have some things in you, like you have a vertical integrated company. You are finding deals directly, or you have established your name. Right now, when the market's good, for you to really take advantage when market's down. Right. If you're sitting on the sideline not doing deals, I think when market's down, you are the lowest priority in the value stack for brokers. at the same time, there will be other issues that's going to be preventing you from buying deals, such as, they may not be loan. The stock market is so, crazy low. Nobody's going to give you money, right, to invest, right? People are so scared. People are losing jobs. Nobody's going to invest like what they're doing right now.
Yeah, what I like to say is if you can get really good at finding opportunity in a very highly competitive market like we're in today, or part of the cycle that we're in today, then things should be, very much in your favor should a recession take hold in the future, right? I mean, right now you've got to work extra hard. I mean, if you can think back, James, to just 4 years ago of the amount of effort and how many deals you had to look at today versus 4 years ago to find one good opportunity, I'm sure it's like night and day difference, right? I mean,
it's absolutely different.
Even the past 12 months, I keep saying here in our business, like literally the past 12 months in our space is, gained a lot of interest. A lot of you multifamily guys are jumping over into the mobile home park space now. Just from 1 year ago today, I mean, like the competition is like at least 50% higher than what it was just a year ago even. And so we're digging even harder. We bought 9 parks last year, and we just closed on one a couple of weeks ago. So we've only bought one this year thus far, and got another one in contract now. And we've killed way more deals than obviously what we bought. But it's a night and day difference. We got to work. We got to work really hard and be very diligent. But I know that we're really good at what we do. And so should things, loosen up, should things change a little bit here in the future, then we'll be ready to capitalize on the opportunity. So that's...
Well, you're right about buying deals in this hot market and all that. I mean, when during downturn, it's not going to be brokers bringing you deals, right? It could be foreclosure, right? So educating on alternative method of acquisition is important, like master lease, foreclosure buying, right? What you call
buying distressed notes,
wholesaling, right? Subject to, right? I can bet you most of the people out there who's buying deals in the past 3 years, they only know brokers, right? But the situation will be completely different during downturn, that you may not get the deals through brokers. You may be able to go to this alternate way of buying. And if you do not know that methods right now, it's going to be hard to buy deals during downturn, right?
Yeah.
So I think get educated is another important thing that I want to make sure that I mention.
Yeah. James, what is the best place for folks that want to reach out or learn more about you and your company? What's the best place to find you?
My email is james@achieveinvestmentgroup.com. Achieve is like achieving a goal. Achieveinvestmentgroup.com. My website is achieveinvestmentgroup.com. I have my own podcast called Achieve Wealth through Value-Add Real Estate Investing, which I'm going to be interviewing you. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, which I talk a lot about the commercial real estate operators. It's a bit more technical podcast, so there's no motivation in that podcast. So there'll be some other podcasts, but we talk a lot about operation and how valuable value add and how do they run their properties. So you can take a pencil and paper and really learn a lot of stuff. And I have my own Facebook group as well. It's called Multifamily Investors Group. There's like almost 2,000 people there, and you can get a lot of me over there. And through LinkedIn and Facebook, right? So James Kandsamy, you should be able to find me.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, James, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm really excited that we finally had the opportunity to get on the phone together. And folks, if you're in the Texas market, San Antonio, Austin market, definitely, I shouldn't tell them to look James up, but James, I'm going to tell them to look you up because you're a great guy. You're very giving. I wouldn't say it's challenging to find folks as giving as you, but I mean, they're few and far between. And so I know you're giving your time even to me. Anytime I have a question, you're there to answer it and make yourself available. So with that, James, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And folks, I appreciate you tuning in. And until we meet again next week, this is your host, Kevin Bupp, signing off.
Congratulations! Now you've got more of the best tricks of the trade in building massive amounts of passive income from real estate. For more amazing resources, visit realestateinvestingforcashflow.com, and we'll see you next Monday morning.